listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Wake Up Hollywood, this is your host with the most. We're going to do a very cool and special show tonight. Tonight, the interviewer becomes the interviewee, and one of my former guests, who was the interviewee, is going to interview me about my new record, Crossroads. So please welcome Diane Kane. It's all you. Let's just give you the floor. You deserve it.
Nikki, first of all,
thank you ahead of time. Well, let me thank you first. Thank you for doing this.
Well,
and you did an amazing interview for Revolutions that you posted to your network. And I'm like, I got to have her do the same type of interview for this new record on this network. So thank you for doing this.
On the Who's Zoom and Who show.
That's right.
It's up on YouTube now. And I am so honored to be talking to you about this amazing 15-song album, tribute to the blues. You got a tribute to Jimi Hendrix. You got a tribute to Robert Johnson / Eric Clapton. Named the album Crossroads. Yeah. I mean, Nikki,
I told you I was wearing my Robert Johnson. I'm wearing my Robert Johnson in honor. You know,
you're no joke. You know, you started singing opera with Placido Domingo, and now you're singing the blues.
Yeah,
20, 30, maybe 20 years later.
Well, and you know what's funny? I was thinking about it today. It's such a different bag, but it's really kind of like what I've always wanted to do in the back of my mind. I remember hearing Elvis Presley, and I remember hearing Eric Clapton and Chuck Berry, and just being and the Beatles, and just being blown away by those voices and what they were doing. You know,
what took you so long?
Technique. I think classical technique is still the best technique, but I think you learn things when it comes to technique to shake them off and try to make your own style and signature. So I think a lot of classical music was great to kind of learn arrangements. You know, like I would just stare at the whole scores and see like what composers were doing, like in the bass and like how they were doing it in the strings. And like, then you had the melody on top, and all of that fascinated me. And I really do take that approach when I make records and arrangements, because those guys, you know, they would compose and it would last 200 or 300 years, 400 years, you know? So, you know, I think I learned a lot from just the arrangement of the composers from those operas and classical and Baroque pieces.
I bet. And you went to school for music, obviously, and that is the key right there. Learn all the rudimentary, you know, theory and cycle fifths, and now here you are writing all the arrangements for this record. Yes.
Yes.
I can't believe it. You said you have a blues trio. And I said to myself, well, this sounds a little bit more like a trio. You have a whole freaking horn section with Ludo Ludovic and Wes Smith, and fine horn section. You got backup singers.
Yes.
You have
some guest star guitar players.
Lavelle.
Chuck Lavelle. Yeah. Oh my God.
Was with the Allman Brothers, which when I heard this album, I said, you sound just like Greg Allman, man. I mean, you just in the pocket with your voice. And
thank you. He's one of my favorite singers.
Played with Greg Allman.
Yes.
He toured with Greg Allman, made his own group later on. And then he went on tour and played keyboards and did musical direction for the Rolling Stones. How the heck did you get him on this record?
You know what's so crazy? Like, I've always wanted to work with Chuck Lavelle. I mean, this is probably since I was a music student. And I'll tell you, it was actually Eric Clapton's Unplugged record that introduced me to Chuck Leavell, and the song was Old Love. And I remember hearing
that's on the CD, folks.
Yeah, no, and you know what? Like that solo that he does on Old Love on the Clapton record. I mean, there's one line, that the one lick that he does, that it's like this run-on lick that is like one of the most beautiful licks. And he plays it, and even Eric Clapton, you hear him go, yeah, you know, in the recording. And that was my first introduction to Chuck Leavell. And then I started like realizing, oh my God, he was with the Allman Brothers. Oh my God, he's with the Stones. And it just kind of opened like so many doors as to how like really essential this guy is to classic rock, the blues, rock and roll. Like he's kind of an unsung hero in a lot of ways, but I just, you know, waited and waited and waited to reach out to him. And then when we started doing this project, what's so funny is with my band, NK Band, we had covered Old Love at shows and played it, House of Blues. And, you know, like I always saved that song for a record. And I didn't know why I was saving it. And, you know, when I started putting this trio together, that was one of the songs we started playing. And I'm like, this should really be a trio song. We should do it as a trio because it's just such a cool version. And then that's when I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just throw a Hail Mary and try and find Chuck Leavell's email. And I'm going to try and reach out to him via email and ask him if he'll play on this song because he already knows the song. So it's not too much of a stress or inconvenience because he already knows the song. So that was one kind of like added bonus just to ask him. And so I reached out to him and not thinking that he would respond. You know, like you never think. I've emailed a lot of really big musicians and not all of them have emailed me back, which is fine, which is what I expect. But he emailed me back and he said, yeah, man, I'd totally love to play on that. I already
Oh my God, you must have freaking.
I was freaking out. What's so funny is like we started recording this record as like recording a couple demos. And when Chuck Leavell said he could record on it, it was like, this has now become an album. Like there is no question about it. And what's so funny is like I went back into the studio, even just to send him a rough track. I retracked my guitar solo. That's not even on, like, it never made the record. But I was like, if I'm sending Chuck Leavell something to play over, I want to make sure it's as good as it can be. And, like, I redid my vocals, redid my guitar solo, just so I could give him something good enough that he would go, okay, these guys can play. This kid is all right. This rhythm section's all right. Everything's cool. And the coolest part is when he emailed me, he said, you know, when he was doing all the Allman Brothers stuff, he recorded it at Capricorn Studios. I don't know if you know that studio, but it's a studio that's been closed for 20 years.
Capricorn Studio.
Yeah, it's in Macon, Georgia. So a friend of mine from Georgia, Scott Little, shout out to him. He's a songwriting friend of mine. When I was touring colleges, I was touring near Georgia, and he said, hey, I want to take you to Macon, Georgia and show you, because he's a big Allman Brothers fan too. He said, I want to show you Capricorn Records. I want to show you the graveyard where the Allman Brothers used to hang out and write songs and party. And you could see where, you know, Dwayne Allman was buried. You can see where, you know, like you could see all the guys who have passed where they're buried, and they're all buried in the cemetery. God. So we went there and I got to see the outside of Capricorn Studios. And I was like, man, the history that's in that building, it's crazy. So when he emailed me back, he said, hey, I'm gonna actually record it in Capricorn Studios. They just they reopened it and renovated the whole thing. So I'm gonna go in there and record everything that we do in Capricorn. And I was like, this is I mean, even if I asked him 5 years earlier, it just wouldn't have been as special because he was doing it in the same room that he recorded with the Allman Brothers, and he recorded Southbound there. He recorded Jessica there. And I've learned every part of his piano solo on Jessica, like every part of it. And it's still one of the most incredible solos I think ever recorded. And he did it all on the fly. So like I've learned this guy's music, know his playing. And then he told me that. And so I quickly emailed him. I said, hey, if you're going to Capricorn, would you be willing to also play on an original song? Because I was like, in my heart, I was like, I can't just have him play only on a cover. If there's a chance he can play on an original, because that is the true reason I made this record too, to write new songs in this style. And he answered right away. He said, yeah, absolutely. I'll do both songs. And I'll cut them both in the same day. So that to me was dream come true right there.
Wow, that is just really pinch me. I mean, you must have been like high as a kite when he said yes, and then doing both songs.
Yeah, and then when he sent me, when he sent me what he played, I mean, I literally wept. I was like, this is like why I make music. You know, it's like
Yes.
I'm gonna get emotional even talking about it now because, you know, he changed my life with the Eric Clapton Unplugged record. He changed my life with Allman Brothers playing the solos on Southbound and Jessica, and just like learning about him and
I'm like tearing up.
yeah, honestly, and you know this, Diane, you're a great singer, you're a great artist. You know the struggles of an artist, and it's always up and down. And
Yep.
you don't
And when it's up, boy, it
it's
is like
it's up. You're like flying. You're like flying.
you
And when
just
you're down,
it's
you're
like
down, you know?
you're sailing. It's like walking out. You don't even have to talk. You're like in the room, and they're there, and you're there with them, and they're listening, and they want to improve on it, and you're just like, whatever you want to do, just play. You know, it's
And you know,
they're like, whatever
and you
you
know
do is fine.
and you know there's a struggle too with just being an artist, like getting through the doubts, getting through kind of like the naysayers that are even in your mind of just like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Like, I'm an Indian kid that grew up in Southern California. I have no like reason to be playing the blues, and I have no place in that community to be singing the blues. But yet I really think I do, because isn't that what the blues is about? That it's like able to be, you know, changed, and it's able to evolve, and it's able to reach different demographics and different ethnicities. And that's a big reason why I have the banyan tree on the cover, because that tree is from India, and it's the rootsiest of all trees. Blues music is the rootsiest of all music, because it's in, you don't have jazz without blues, you don't have gospel, you don't have rock without blues, you have nothing in the postmodern era of music without blues.
This is really true.
You know, so that was, everything was very like symbolic and methodical and planned to try and make this something, you know, special.
Well, how did you? I mean, 15 songs, Nikki.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Like, how did you? First of all, what studio did you record at?
Great question. This is where it's really special. We recorded at a studio called Aspen's Place Recording. And Aspen Pittman was an inventor of groove tubes. So you can see I've got a Fender amp right here. Fender actually bought groove tubes, his invention, to put in all of their amps. So he was like a tinkerer, always inventing stuff. He's got all these patents, and he created this studio for songwriters. Really, he just wanted his friends to use it and just kind of like have this small studio. While he was putting the studio together, he started acquiring all these incredible guitar amps. So when you walk in, you see all these vintage guitar amps and special modeled guitar amps that you can't get in stores, and special edition version of guitars and amps. So the sad thing is I never got to meet Aspen because he passed away about 5 or 6 years ago. And so his son-in-law is a friend of mine, and he said, you know, you should come to the studio and just check it out. I'd love for you to, you know, maybe think about doing something there. And when I walked in, I saw all these guitar amps. It was like, this is a guitar player's dream. This is like exactly where we should record. He had an old Ludwig drum kit. He had vintage basses. So I was like, this is going to be a treat for my trio to come here and play all this vintage gear and kind of do something together and experience it, you know, as a unit. So it was like, okay, let's start with 3 or 4 songs and see what it sounds like. And that's how it all started.
And you started with songs that you had played before?
So I don't walk into a studio. I don't know if you know this. I never walk into a studio until I rehearse. So like if I do a record with my band, I rehearse with them for 6 months. So for this trio project, Gene actually moved into my rehearsal space, you know, to use it as a drum space.
Gene, your drummer.
Yeah, Gene Coy, who is like he's such a legendary jazz drummer. There's no question about it.
I'm gonna cry during this whole interview. Okay.
And you know what's so funny? It's like Gene actually opened for NK Band with a really happening band. I'm sure you saw them. They were called the Endangered, and it was Gene Coy on on drums, Frank Abraham on bass, Maya Sykes lead vocals. So it was just like this ridiculous band. So they opened for us, and I remember
what the heck happened with that.
They just, you know what? They just said everybody got busy, and it was which happens. So when they opened for us, I remember talking to Gene, and this is the first. I don't even know. I think I tease him now. Like I talked to him. I said, "Man, we've got to do a project together. I don't know what it's going to be, but I've got to have you playing on something." And that was like maybe 10, 12 years ago that I told him. And then when he moved into my space, I was like, "Hey, man, I wanted to ask, I talked to you a long time ago about maybe doing a project. Would you be into doing a blues project?" And the reason I'll tell you is, Jimi Hendrix is like such a big influence on me. And his drummer, Mitch Mitchell, he's one of the best drummers in music. He was also a jazz drummer. And there is no Jimi Hendrix experience without Mitch Mitchell on drums. There just is. It's like that's what adds to so much of the excitement. And so, I asked him, and he was like, "Man, I would love to do something like that." I said, I want to pay tribute to a lot of the blues artists and blues rock artists that came before us. So we're going to do some covers, but I'm definitely going to write some originals. But, I kind of want to immerse myself in the same way that classical music, you immerse yourself in opera. Immersing yourself in learning like what the masters did with this record, with these songs, you learn the little tones and the solo licks and the vocals. And like, I actually found it incredibly challenging to play some of the rhythms that Jimmy was playing.
Oh, you got it down.
Vocals. Yeah, and then sing vocals on top of it. So
and the sound of the guitar too.
Yes, the sound of the guitar. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. So we rehearsed a long time. And the first song we actually did was Wind Cries Mary. And I wanted that to be the first for a lot of reasons, because it was the first song that I ever learned about Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it wasn't the first song I'd ever heard of Jimi Hendrix. It was the first one I learned to play. So as soon as I learned to play Wind Cries Mary, that made me go down the rabbit hole. And then it started with learning other songs. Fire is one of my favorite songs. Red House is one of my favorite songs. Manic Depression is one of my favorite songs.
They're all on the,
and they're all on the CD for that reason. And he is all over this CD for that reason, because he was the first trio that I was ever exposed to that made me want to do this. So and the other thing, speaking of gear, there's a guitar pedal maker named Sabadius in Argentina. And a friend of mine who makes guitars, he bought this guitar pedal, and he said, "Man, you're gonna really love this pedal." And he knew I was a huge Hendrix fan, and I heard the pedal. I was like, "Dude, I've got to have this. This is crazy." So he was like, "Here's his information. It's kind of weird. You pay him, and then he sends you the pedal like 6 months later. So you don't even can't walk into a store and get it. He does.
Hendrix used to use it.
Well, Hendrix used to use a Univibe, yes. So it's like similar. It's like a modern version of what Hendrix used, but even better. It's like even more of that sound that Hendrix got out of it. So that's the first pedal that started this whole thing. And I built a pedal board around, all the Jimi Hendrix stuff. And then it was like that was the pedal board I was using on this whole record.
Oh my God!
So it was just it was all sound related.
It's very scientific. I mean, it's creative, and it's intuitive, but you have to, like you said, 6 months of rehearsal to get everything right before you go into the studio. I mean, there's so much nuance to get right, and then so you can go in and forget and just let go and not try.
And I'll be honest, like, I told them too, I'm like, you guys don't need the rehearsal. They sounded great from day one. And I said, I need the rehearsal and learning how to fill the space on guitar, learning how to like get to all the parts that make sense, to learn to sing and play. So like the first rehearsal for me was really rough, and they were just super patient. They were like, "No, we believe in this. This is great. You sound great." And I was just like, "You guys sound great, but I'm going to," and I would tell them, I'm like, "I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to get this down." Because it was a challenge. It was like, like you can't hide behind anything else.
Right.
It's just you playing the guitar parts and the vocals, and you have this powerhouse rhythm section. That's why I put the power in the name. They bring the power. They are the power. And so I have to just like, a lot of it, I joke with them. It's like, I'm just trying to keep up with them. They're so good, you know.
So you got Gene Coy on drums and who on bass?
Andre De Santana, and he's actually the NK band bassist, and he also plays with Jason Mraz, and he also plays with Sergio Mendes. And you know, a lot of one thing I also wanted to kind of make a point to, I wanted to get 3 different cultures as the trio too.
Oh, okay.
That was kind of important to me. So Andre is actually from Brazil. Gene is African American, and I'm Indian. And it's like you can't get more diverse than those 3 styles kind of playing music together. And I think a lot of that makes a statement just in like where we're coming from and that place that we're trying to like tap into, which
True
is
democracy.
True democracy. Yeah, that's absolutely it. That's absolutely it.
Wow. So then you built on your trio. So you did how many songs with just the trio?
So I think there's about maybe 4 or 5 songs with
just the trio.
Yeah. And I think Red House is just actually Red House has an organist. So like there's certain things that I wanted to do. First we recorded everything just the trio. And then I said, you know what?
Okay.
I love hearing myself play guitar to a point. And then there's a point, and I'm the same way with the vocals. I'm like, if I'm singing vocals, I know I can sing vocals. And there gets to a point in a record where I'm like, I get tired of hearing myself. And I'm like, I want to open this up and bring in some fresh energy, some different voices, some different players. So the opening track, Struttin', I actually arranged all the horn lines and conducted them, which was awesome. But you know, I was like, listen, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write a funk tune, and you'll appreciate this because you interviewed me with Revolutions. So Revolutions ended with an instrumental, okay? So Crossroads starts with an instrumental, so that there's a through line for each, and that's very intentional. Yeah. So one ends with an instrumental, and it's tied up with starting Crossroads with a new instrumental. And the horn lines, I literally wanted to have it sound like the James Brown horns, the JBs. So I learned like what he did on Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, and I'm like, I'm gonna change this around so that it becomes something new, but it still is very stylistically James Brown.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Folks, you got to hear this record. I mean, it's just. It gives you chills listening to it. I mean, I stayed up all night when you sent it to me, and I was like going down the list.
I remember you sent me a text message. You're like, "Oh my god, this sounds so good. Oh my god!" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'll tell you." It's like I sent it to like an inner circle of people because I wanted people to hear it before it was released.
Amazing.
And you'd be surprised how many people listened and how many people didn't listen. And like the people that listened, I know when people listen because people would make comments. They'd be like, "This is incredible," and that was a testament to like how you are and who you are as a person, because you just open and embrace you open yourself and embrace the record, and that's all I could ever ask anybody to do. So I appreciate that so much.
Well, I also like that you added two of your own originals, and they sound like the rest of the record.
That was very intentional because I didn't want it to just be a cover band record. And there's actually 5 originals and 10 covers. So the whole concept was really simple. It's let's do 5 originals, and then we go through a crossroads. So there's a solo version of Robert Johnson's tune, and the reason that was a late addition. The reason I did that was because we had this full blown out version of Crossroads, but that's not how he recorded it. He recorded it by himself. So I was like, this is almost like not true to the characteristic that he.
I love that you did that.
So I went in, and I actually went in with a cigar. It's actually right here. You can see it. This little white case. This is a cigar box guitar. So it's just got 4 strings. It's made out of a cigar box. I got it in Memphis. Never put it on a record. And so I started fiddling around with it, and I was like, I'm going to come up with like a really stripped down version of Crossroads for the record. And so my engineer was like, I don't know if you should do that. We're kind of full on tracks. I'm like, it has to be there. It has to be an intro because that's the way that I can pay tribute to Robert Johnson. And there's a great movie on Robert Johnson. You should check it out if you have time. It's called Devil at the Crossroads. And it's all about his story. I got chills. It's an amazing story because, not to blabber on about Robert Johnson, but this is one of the things that moved me so much. So Robert Johnson came up with this style of music, this kind of rootsy, kind of bluesy kind of thing that nobody was doing at the time. It was any kind of style of music like this was done like to slave songs or gospel songs or in the church. And, you know, when he was doing this secular music, playing and singing blues and with a gospel twist, you know, people shunned him, you know, including his own family. So he was touring around. Oh yeah, he was touring around all over the country, playing in any little bar he could, and his wife was pregnant, okay, at the time. So he came back in time for the pregnancy, and she died, and the baby died. The baby and
God.
died. So her family and his family, both families, said the reason this happened is because you're playing that devil's music.
Oh, jeez.
Which is crazy. So he actually still toured and still played for very little money wherever he could, playing this music, playing on porches, playing in forests, and, you know, on streets and in bars, wherever he could play. And then, you know, Carnegie Hall, you know, he did this recording session. He did 2 recording sessions, only 2. And you know, he did these 2 recording sessions. I think they were about a couple weeks apart, maybe a couple months apart. And he recorded these 2 records that basically kind of became almost like 2 different compilations, but one became one significant compilation. And Carnegie Hall got wind of this record, and they said, we need to find this guy. This guy's making some of the most incredible music. Go out and find Robert Johnson, okay? Unbeknownst to Robert Johnson that anybody was looking for him. He was traveling all over the place, and he was flirting with a bar owner's wife at a gig. She was really interested in him. He was flirting with her. And so the rumor is the bar owner poisoned him and gave him a drink. And he ended up dying of getting poisoned. And then the Carnegie Hall booker found out when they were in the neighborhood of where he was. They were tracking him down. Wow. They found him like a week or 2 later. And so they called back to the Carnegie Hall and they said, you know what? He passed away. He just died 2 weeks ago, you know, and which is tragic. And so you know what they did, which is kind of amazing that they did this. Carnegie Hall brought out a phonograph and had a concert, and they played his entire record.
Are you kidding me? What a great story that is.
What a great story. So first of all, I want to someday make a movie about this because it is a true story, and it's a
do it.
And the other thing is, like, the guy lived for his music more than anybody I think I've ever known, with no fanfare, with no applause, with no financial, you know, payments, and did it even though his whole family turned against him, even though he lost everything.
He had to. He was an artist.
Yeah.
He was a creative artist. You can't help it.
So he was essential for putting that song on the record. And the other thing too, it's like when I saw that documentary, I was like, I've got to do something to keep this guy's story alive and keep him alive. And the weird thing is, the Eric Clapton version, you and I were talking about this before, you knew Crossroads, and I knew Crossroads from Eric Clapton. Thank God he played Crossroads with Cream, because I probably wouldn't have known Robert Johnson. And that's how the world knows this song. But the crazy thing about it is, Eric Clapton changed the words. So he cut out some verses, and he changed some verses that aren't actually true to the pure form of what he was singing. So there are 2 versions of Crossroads. So the version that I recorded, and this I found this to be super crazy. In all the time that Robert Johnson's Crossroad has been recorded, there has never been a true recording of his original version. So I made sure the lyrics were all exactly the same. There's 2 versions. I did version 1, and not because I was like, maybe it's in numerical order, maybe not. But I'm like, I respond to this first version. It looks like it's version number 1. That's the one we're going to do. So that's the version that's on the record, and we'll play it a little bit later. But
yeah,
first let's play some of the originals. So
okay.
Well, let's play the one which we started with talking about Chuck Leavell. So let's play When I'm With You, and this is featuring Chuck Leavell with the trio.
When I'm with you.
When I'm with you, the sun always shines. When I'm with you, the words always rhyme. When I'm with you, the clouds rise above. The rain sings of love. Time always flies when your light is in the room, and when you're gone, I miss you till you're home. When I'm with you, troubles just fade. When I'm with you, the laughter erases the shade. When I'm with you, I realize who I need to be. When I'm with you, you bring out the best out of me. Yeah. Time always flies when your light is in the room, and when you're gone, I miss you till you're home. When I'm with you, our lives forever change. When I'm with you, the love is what remains. When I'm with you, our lives forever change. When I'm with you, the love is what remains. Yeah. When I'm with you, our lives forever change. When I'm with you, the love is what remains. When I'm with you, our lives forever change. When I'm with you, yeah, the love is what remains.
All right, Chuck Leavell.
That piano solo was just absolutely magnificent.
Unbelievable, right?
And I have to say that song is like another layer or dimension of blues. It's not blues, but it's
Absolutely.
It's like Americana. And as we get more into the album, there's just you represented so well the many different kinds of blues. So
well, the reason I wanted this song in there, you know, it was one of the first original songs. I was like, I want to write something for the trio. So like I knew I was going to have some pretty standard blues songs that were original songs. There's actually 3 songs, Struttin', Come Out and Play, and Someone Tell the World It's Burning, that are literally traditional in the blues style.
I really like Struttin'.
Yeah, Struttin's cool. It's got a vibe.
Play just a snippet from it.
Oh, well, we don't have it right now, but you know, I'll see if I can find it. But you know what? What's cool about that is, like, I wanted, you know, to showcase this record. What's really difficult, I wanted to show not all blues songs, because it's like when I
Well-
think about music and writing, I kind of want to showcase things that make the record so different than a traditional blues record.
Well, you succeeded, I would say.
Thanks.
You want to go into your next another original?
Yeah, let's do. Before we play it, I want to talk a little bit about it because I actually wrote this song 17 years ago. I wrote it.
It's a very unusual hook.
Yes.
The lyric.
Yes.
It kind of grabs you. It's like, how is he going to get back to this? Okay.
You know what's interesting is I rehearsed it with the band 17 years ago. Thought about putting it on Revolutions. Actually, we rehearsed it with the band, and it just didn't. I was like, this sounds good. It doesn't sound right. Like I know, like in the same way that I rehearse a band. When I rehearse a song with people, I can hear when it's got it's got some legs. It's got
you can feel it.
You can
feel it.
You feel excited from it,
Right.
and I wasn't getting that
Right.
excitement when I rehearsed it with the band. Not that they can't play it, but it just sometimes because something is so simple, sometimes people just
Right.
may think, oh yeah, we can just run through it like that. Not that they even did that, but it just didn't. In that couple times that I ran it, it just didn't have that excitement. And when I played with the trio with the song, it left it so open. And I was like, oh, this sounds so cool. We can add to it. We can add layers of things. And there was like something raw about it that I loved, but also something kind of like in the style of, some of the John Mayer Continuum stuff. In fact, a bass player that was playing with the band a long time ago, when I first brought it into rehearsal in 2006, he was like, man, this song sounds like something that could be off Continuum. And I said, it's very funny you say that, because I wanted to write something that was like John Mayer Come Back to Bed and John Mayer Gravity. Like I was like heavily influenced by him as a writer for this particular song, because what I loved about what he was doing at the time, he was doing blues music and making it popular. So he was doing pop music with blues progressions, which nobody was doing at the time. And I was like, this is what Eric Clapton did. This is what the Beatles did. So I made a point to try and write this song. When I brought it in to record it, the thing that blew my mind about it was where the recording process took this song. Because usually I kind of know, okay, it sounds good. It's going to sound cool. This song far surpassed my expectations as to what it could be, based on the layers, based on the horns, based on we have Arlen Oscar playing keys and some synths, and he was like, man, I'm gonna do an Isley Brothers thing. I'm like, yes, do it. So he did these really cool parts. I'm playing lap
Let's
steel.
hear it.
Yeah, so let's hear. This is The Price of Falling Down.
This is a long one too, right?
This is about 5 minutes. I
Okay.
think. 5,
Okay.
6 minutes.
Never meant to hurt someone. You can't even start to try. But with all the lies we bear, seems we're falling down. Seems we're falling back down. Hold our walls to keep us safe till the right one comes along. When your eyes pierce into me, you see me falling down. You see me falling back down. Keep your secrets inside while I try to decide if we're willing to hide, baby, the price of falling down, the price of falling back down. It takes a lot to say I'm wrong, but did you ever think this through?
I
All
mean,
right.
it's got your touch, like it's got an original Nikki Korula feeling,
Thank you.
but it feels like first of all, I see the video. The video, it's a waltz, couples in the bar. You're up on
Oh, I
stage
like this.
singing.
I like this a lot. Keep
Yeah,
going. Keep
I'll
going.
direct it.
Yeah, please.
People falling down. I mean, getting back up again, hugging, dancing.
I
But
like.
you have like Chicago, I feel like Chicago, I hear Chicago
Yep.
horns,
Yep.
and you have different horns in there. You have a trombone. But I want to know how much leeway you give if a musician is in the studio and like I gotta play, you let him
Oh, that's
or
such a
do you
great
say,
question.
do I need I need something here, Wes. Give me
Right.
something.
Well, you know what was really cool? It's like I had all these monster musicians in the horn section.
Because it's a very arranged tune.
Yes. So I knew the horn line I was going to have them play. And then, they were sitting there and I was like, I got to have these guys play something. And I was like, listen, I want you each to play on a verse. And all of them kind of like, they perked up like, well, you don't get asked that very often. Like,
Oh yeah,
because they get called in to do horns.
musicians love that.
They were like, oh, how cool we get to leave an imprint. And I'm like, yeah, like you guys are my friends. Like, of course I'm gonna want you to leave an imprint. And I'm like, so like what was so funny, I was like, all right, Ludo. I'm like, Ludo's played on my record before. He played on Revolutions. I was like, hey man, the only thing I want is I want you to put a mute in the trumpet. I've always wanted a muted trumpet solo on a record.
I like that you brought him in right at the beginning too. You didn't wait.
No, and he came in, I think he did one take. And then Wes did 2 takes, and really both were good. But he's like, no, I want to do it over. And I was like, oh, okay. And what was really cool, there was a young trombonist. He's actually Harry Styles' trombonist. And, he knew all the cats, but he'd never done a session with them. So he was a little intimidated in the sense of like, oh my God, I'm the youngest cat. Like I better throw down. So like he first started playing a solo and it was good, And I was like, cool, man, give me another one. And like he started playing again, and he was, almost trying to like almost play too much. And so I came into the room and I was like, hey man, Christian, you sound great, but listen, you're trying to win this girl back. You're trying to like, this is about bringing this woman home. Like bring her back, get her back, dude. And then he was like, okay, cool. And he played what is on the record. And I was
Very
like,
cool.
that was it, And then, Ray Zepeda, he plays an NK band and he's like a one take wonder too.
What did he play? Tell us what he plays.
He plays saxophone. He plays the last solo. So all of them just brought so much to the table, but it was I felt so touched that they were excited about being soloists on the record, and it makes the song for me that them.
The song has a lot of room for them to do that, plus the arrangements, plus the background vocals are beautiful.
I love the background vocals.
Nice and smooth.
Yeah.
You wrote those?
I wrote all of those. Yeah. And the harmonies for me come pretty easily, but coming up with cool harmonies like that, it's not always going to happen. So like as soon as I
hear them, but barely, but you can hear them. So
and
it
it's like
doesn't
the
overwhelm.
It's totally the doo-wop blues thing, like Temptation style. Like I put a lot of elements of music that I've always loved in this. And then, the progression, I don't know if you could hear it, but it's really when the lights go down.
Right.
I mean, it's really that. But I wanted to disguise it too and make it pop tune, So like that's such a good pop tune. So I'm like, why not make something that sounds completely different?
Yeah.
That, you can't really hear right away. And now you'll be able to hear it, but it's also disguised. I think a lot of it is like trying to make something that you can kind of disguise.
Well, it's a song that you can listen to over and over and hear different things. And there was like a slide.
Yeah, lap steel. I played lap steel, and I'm not a great lap steel player at all, but I just bought this vintage lap steel. I was like, this has got to get on the record somehow.
Yeah.
Tried learning a part, and it came out good enough. I won't do it live, but it was cool to actually do.
It's got everything.
Yeah.
That's cool. Ice cream sundae's got everything. It's got the chocolate, it's the caramel. It's got a couple of cherries. It's got maybe some almonds in the ice cream. You got to go back and listen to it over and over.
I'll tell you, this was the song that surprised me the most when I heard the mix and the whole thing. I was like, this surpassed my expectations by football fields, by miles. Because I wasn't sure how this tune was going to become what it is, and I'm so happy I waited 17 years for this song to be recorded, and it came out just the way I was hoping it would, you know.
Well,
so
when people listen to this, they're gonna there's something for everybody on this. I mean, and that one is definitely Americana and more.
Yeah.
Now you're going to juxtapose though. When we go into Crossroads, we go into manic depression.
Yes.
We're going to really hear how Nikhil Korula adjusts his whole approach to not only covering it and making it his own, but so that you hear it new, especially Crossroads.
What's really neat about this song,
and it seems like you kind of combined John Mayer's version with Eric Clapton's version.
I actually did kind of a hybrid of Mayer's version, Clapton's version, but really staying true to Robert Johnson's version. And you know what? I have to tell you, there's a hometown guitar hero on this record who's from where I grew up in Arcadia. There's a musician named Pat O'Brien that I've known for 20 years but never said a word to him because I was so intimidated by him because he was such a great, gifted musician. So when I started doing this trio, I was like, I'm going to go see him play and I'm going to introduce myself to him and we're going to become good friends because now I really respect him even more. So I went up to him and I introduced myself. I said, you know, you're kind of like a hero of mine on guitar. I really have so much respect for you. I said, I would love to have you play.
He must have loved that.
He loved it. He loved it. And I said, you know, I want to do a show with you and have you be the headliner. So my first trio show,
oh wow, he
actually was the headliner. And I had another guy named Mark Castrion who opened for us. And so for the record, as soon as we actually sat in together and played this song for the first show, so I said, we got to record it like this. So it was really cool to actually pay tribute to a hometown hero of mine, also another friend of mine, and have them all on the record. And Arlen Oscar again plays some stride piano on it, and it just comes out really cool. Let's play Crossroads. This is Crossroads by Robert Johnson.
Let's do it, man.
Crossroads, fell down on my knees. Down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. Ask the Lord above for mercy, save me if you please. Standing at the crossroads, try to flag a ride. Crossroads, try to flag a ride. Nobody seemed to know me, everybody passed me by. babe. I looked east and west. Lord, I didn't have no sweet woman. Oh, well, baby, my distress. You can run. Tell my friend we're round. You can run. Tell my friend we're round. When I'm standing at the crossroads, believe I'm sinking down.
You cannot go wrong with that.
That's a great tribute. That's one of my favorite things about
Woo!
the complete tribute to Robert Johnson.
Was that you singing all the way through?
No, so Mark
Okay,
does.
I
I
was
did
like,
the first two
Really
verses.
changed there.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? My parents, I think my dad was, my mom was convinced that it was me through the whole thing. My dad was like, "No, I don't think so. I think there's some different singers." So it was pretty cool to make it kind of uniform but different. So the first two verses I sing, then there's solos, and Mark plays the first solo, I play the second solo, Pat plays the third solo, and then I match the solos with Mark sings first, then I sing, and then Pat sings.
Oh, I gotcha.
And it's like we did it like to pay tribute and respect to how we did the night too. So it was really, really special for
Very
me.
cool, man.
Both on the record, so it's cool.
That's a hell of a song, man. Oof.
Thank you. I wish I wrote it, but
I know, right?
but you know what? That's kind of what started this whole thing, and like I put the song in the middle for that reason. It's like you're going to the crossroads.
Yes.
It's gonna go. You're going to pay tribute to all the artists that came before us. And I know we're running a little bit out of time, but I want to play Manic Depression real quick.
Okay.
It's Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, you did this.
Seriously, he's my guitar god, hero, and he's probably the biggest influence to make me want to do this record. And I ended the record with this because it's such a phenomenal drum performance by Gene. Gene has a solo at the end that is just incredible, and it really showcases everybody. And I also ended it this way because the very last words that Jimi Hendrix sings is music, sweet music, sweet music. And I wanted to end the whole record with that notion. So let's play Manic Depression. This is Manic Depression by Jimi Hendrix by the NK Power Trio.
Searching my soul, I know what I want, but I just don't know how to go about getting it. Feeling sweet, feeling drops from my fingers. Manic depression capture my soul. Yeah. Woman so willing, the sweet cause in bed. You make love, you break love, it's all the same when it's over. You
My God.
Slamming, right?
Well, and I think you stuck to the original arrangement because, and when you look at that arrangement, it goes
Crazy.
on and on and on,
Yeah, and the other thing
pages
too,
after pages.
one thing I did change is I never loved Jimi Hendrix's ending on that because it was just sounded like he's just like lazy hitting these chords, which is cool. But I was like, man, that funk groove of that line that he's playing, I'm like, should be the ending. So I told the guys, I'm like, let's change it and make it end on Gene soloing, and we're holding on for dear life as he's doing this. I mean, honestly, like watching him play that song, we actually end all of our sets with this song.
Yeah.
For that reason too, because it's like it's just so crazy how he plays. So it's amazing. So I wanted to end the record like that.
I did it as a jazz.
You have to send that to me. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear
I gotta find it, but yeah, we
please send that to me. I would love to hear that. That would be so cool.
We did it like that. But anyway,
that's awesome.
Listen, where can we find your music? When you released it not long ago, how's it doing?
So it's really cool.
Grammy winner. How's it doing? Grammy winner and Pulitzer Prize winner. How's it doing?
No Pulitzer Prize yet, only a nomination.
Well, you're a nomination, but to me, you are.
Well, thank you. You're the best. So it's available on all platforms. We're about to print CDs. I had to release it first so that we can get it on the Grammy ballot. So it's on the Grammy ballot as right now, which is cool. It's on Spotify, Apple Music. It's on iTunes. It's on YouTube. It's on all the platforms, as far as I know. And we're going to print CDs soon. We may even try and print some vinyl. We'll see. But it was released July 28th, and the response has been amazing. The cool thing is I also sent it to Victor Wooten, Johnny Lang. I sent it to Gary Clark Jr. I sent it to Derek Trucks. I sent it to Richie Kotzen. This is a testament to like getting people's emails, meeting them, connecting with them. So they all have the record, and whether they listen to it or not, it's up to them. But I think we made a beautiful record, and I'm just really thankful that you were able to interview us about it, So thank
you. I mean, folks, you gotta even just look at the back of the album. I don't know if y'all can see this, but those are all the people, and they're all stars unto themselves. They all have their own careers. I mean, they've been at this, and that's the beauty of being in LA is that you can rub elbows with these people and you get them to come in the studio with you. And
there was Bob Malone.
But you know what you're doing.
Marcus Milius. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Mixed by Yuri Gelman, mastered by Joe Bosey. It's kind of an all-star team of musicians. I was so blessed to be a part of this and just to make something like this. So many special guests on the record. Cameron Morgan, all the horns. It was an experience to go through this and to document it. That's the coolest thing, is to document this record, that I was able to go through this rite of passage, be able to play some of these songs, take on those guitar duties. This is my guitar album. I've never kind of unleashed some of that on records, and it was really cool to kind of have that freedom to do so.
You have grown into a fine young cannibal.
You are the best, and thank you so much, Diane, for interviewing me.
Thank you. I'm honored, and I am amazed always. I'm not going to sleep now. It's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock on the East Coast.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be wide awake for the rest of the night listening to this.
I appreciate it. You have to send me that. You have to send me your Manic Depression version, please.
I will look for it.
Do not forget, because I would love to hear that. I've heard Jamie Cullum do a Wind Cries Mary jazz version, which I love. So like I love the jazz versions of those tunes. So please send that. Just try to find it, please. I'd love to hear it.
I will. I promise.
All right. Lots of love, big hugs, kisses. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Go online and listen to this record.
Diane, tell people where people can find your music as well.
Oh, on the usual suspects. I'm all over the
iTunes.
I'm like SHIT. I'm all over the place. I'm on.
You can say shit, that's okay, but you know what, you make great music too, and I hope people know it and I hope people check it out.
We can never stop, and it ain't over till the fat lady sings. It ain't over till it's over.
That's right. Thank you for taking the time to do this. It means a lot.
Love you, Nikhil Korula.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Diane. On behalf of Sam, myself, and Diane, we'll see you guys next week.
Get this record.
Take care.
You're listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.